Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, dead slave, search, pests, vessels, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today I'm going to do a pretty long video. So buckle up and grab a beer and a pack of cigarettes, and let's get into this topic that is a big one, and that's the utter and complete unraveling of the COVID narrative on every level. So, of course, we have the Fauci hearings, and a lot of things got revealed there, and I did a video about that I recommend because I want you to watch it. And but now, over the last couple of years, a lot of material's been coming out, and a lot of people who get alternative newsletters and watch alternative news puppets have come across a lot of this material that I assure you, because I am a useful idiot, I'm going to give you a big complete picture. I've gathered quite a number of staggering statistics and numbers, and let's get right into it. Let me see if I want to do another summary about this. Oh, I do want to add that, it's interesting to get redemption. Those of us who doubted the whole pandemic narrative, of course, were chastised. We lost our jobs. We were ushered out of schools. Our lives were made miserable, of course, as Dr. Fauci pointed out he wanted to have happen. And then, of course, I'm still out there watching people driving around in their cars alone, wearing a mask. So their brainwashing and their propaganda really paid off well. Sometimes I think it was a giant experiment to just see how many sheeple there were out there that would just comply and obey no matter what. And of course, as always, they use fear. Everybody was scared shitless, and they made sure by the way they characterized everything and the way they splashed it in the news that everybody be scared shitless and just get on board. And this COVID narrative is a classic example of that on an epic global scale. And that's why when you hear people, a lot of people now coming out and characterizing it as a crime against humanity. I mean, it truly is. And I don't like to use fear mongering. I don't like to use doom. I don't like to use vitriol. I don't like to use hyperbole. But now we can get in it because the numbers speak for themselves. And I'm gonna be reading off the papers because there's so much. Unlike most of my videos, I can't carry a lot of it around in my head. So, of course, the most recent headline is from the Telegraph. And it's one of the first times mainstream media has actually acknowledged that there's a connection between the vaccines and the excess deaths. One of the parts of the big narrative we've seen over the last years is we have all these sudden death syndrome and things like that they try to act like it was COVID that caused it. When anybody with half a brain, and some people with a quarter of a brain, and even some people with a full brain, thought that, this stuff all must be caused by COVID. But the connections are undeniable now. It's the vaccines. And another side note, I'm sorry I keep going off on side notes. Another side note, the irony I saw when, of course, Pfizer made hundreds of billions of dollars in profits over the last few years marketing their vaccines. When there started to be heart problems, they tried to cash in on that too, and then they bought out companies that make pharmaceuticals that address heart issues, and just acted like, oh, we got another problem. Well, here, we'll fix that too. So anyway, let's get into this. So first of all, the statistics show that we have dramatic rise in children's funerals and children's coffins, and we have record levels of infertility. We have record levels of birth defects. We have record levels of heart disease, especially among the young. We have record numbers of turbo cancer, and I'll have some figures on a lot of this stuff as I get into the video. There's 2021, a report came out about brain damage to fetuses from the vaccine. In 2024, there was a lot of talk about blood clots, and a lot of blood clots that doctors had never seen before on an epic scale that clearly are related to the vaccines. And now we have doctors warning about getting transfusions from people who are vaccinated because it's that dangerous. So a lot of reports have just come out this year. Oh, here's a note: white fibrous blood clots. Doctors are finding now that never existed before. So that's unusual. But let's go down. All these reports are from 2024. Japan's most senior cancer expert says vaccines are essentially murder. Another report came out and said there's 500 excess deaths annually in the Philippines. There's 1 million less babies since 2020. Another report came out from the Australian funeral director saying there's a rise in sudden deaths, there's a rise in turbo cancer, there's a rise in infant mortality. Another doctor came out and said that 2/3 of all cancer diagnoses are now stage 4 since the vaccine. And I can speak for personal experience. I've been pretty healthy all my life, although I've had a lot of bad habits. And I got a cancer diagnosis. And it immediately was a cancer diagnosis of stage 4 advanced metastatic cancer with a tumor. And I had just gotten the vaccine a year before that. So I can speak from personal experience. And of course, I know lots of friends who have died of sudden heart attacks that were in really good health. And I have lots of friends who have friends like that. And I know, according to reports, once again, almost everybody across the country and across the world knows people that are dying from these symptoms, including heart failures. Another report came out said the Canadian military has an 800% spike in vaccine injuries. Another report came out and said that there's 3 million excess deaths annually in 47 countries. And I would argue that I think there's somewhere in the vicinity of 200 countries in the world. The studies probably haven't been done. This one came from the Health Institute in Germany, but I have to assume there's millions and millions and millions of excess deaths in every single country in the world, especially ones that were covered with heavy vaccination. Another report came out from Dr. Annette Bosworth, Dr. Boz. She used to be a prominent pro-vaccine spokeswoman. Now she says, quote, "This is the biggest crime in the history of medicine," unquote. Another report came out from immunologist Dr. Gert Vanden Bosch. He used to be Bill Gates' former vaccine advisor. He said, quote, "A wave of global deaths is coming. The global population will plunge by 30 or 40%. So once again, all these conspiracy theorists who've been talking about the fact that this is a global genocide and a crime against humanity, and we have somebody who used to be pro-vaccine that says that 30–40% of the population is going to die. And that's pretty scary. I'm not into fear-mongering. I'm not into doom. Those are figures. And another thing about that is that the so-called conspiracy theorists who talk about this as a depopulation plan. And it looks like everything about it is a depopulation plan. And certainly if we have a 30–40% reduction in global population, that is certainly a depopulation plan by its very definition. Let's get into some more studies. Professor Dolores Cahill, world-renowned immunology expert, said, quote, "Everyone who has been vaccinated will die within 3 to 5 years, even from only one injection," unquote. I want to interject another thing. Part of this is if they gave the vaccine and a lot of people died immediately, we wouldn't even be here talking about this. The entire narrative would have vaccinated. But it's the boiling frog syndrome. And for those who don't know the boiling frog syndrome, it's you put a frog in boiling water, and at first he's like, wow, this is great. I'm in some water. I'm going to splash around and be a frog. And he slowly dies. He's not aware of it, but it only takes a few seconds, less than a few minutes, and he's going to be dead. So that's the boiling frog syndrome, and that's what's being done to the global population. By the time everybody figures it out, it'll be too late. If we see these kind of death numbers moving into the future, everybody's going to get it. And unfortunately, what's going to happen, the good side is we're going to see a lot of people that weren't united that are going to unite now because they'll be so outraged. And there's going to be a lot of elections that are not going to go their way. There's going to be a backlash. There already is a backlash. 34% of people are not taking the vaccines. The WHO pandemic global treaty is not flying. But the bad side of it is the elites will resist with their last breath, and they have all the forces in the world. They have control of everything, the military, the media, the politicians. They're going to all fly off to their little islands that they've been buying recently, and they're going to be safe from all this. But if the shit comes down, it's not going to be pretty, and there's going to be a lot of people not only dying from vaccine deaths, but there's going to be a lot of people dying from the government backlash against any kind of popular uprising on a global level. A report came out in Japan, 210,000 excess deaths in 2023, the highest number since World War II. Another report came out and showed that hospitals were actually half empty during the pandemic. A lot of you people out there probably remember the fact that we were watching constant news programs about how they were overloaded and the doctors were all exhausted and there's no empty beds and all that other horseshit. And one thing this story exemplifies is the fact that the media is our enemy. They're totally on board with us. They were the ones that were pushing it. They were the ones that were shaming everybody and chastising everyone to go out and get the vaccines and published all these fake stories. And so they're just as guilty as the government. They're just as guilty as all the co-opted scientists and all the co-opted doctors. So they're all in on this. And they're all in on everything all the time. You know, I know there's an astonishing level of people that don't trust the mainstream media anymore, but the problem is they don't doubt the other guy. They don't doubt their media. They doubt the other guy's media. So once again, divide and conquer. Another report, the highest excess death rates in the West for 3 years. What's changed in the last 3 years? Oh yeah, that's right, vaccines. Another report came out from Dr. Claire Craig. Over a year later, they got all the data from the UK Health Security Agency, and it confirms the fact that there's excess deaths globally. And once again, like I just said, the UK Health Security Agency has been stonewalling having this material released because they knew what was in there. So they're in on it too. And nobody wants to be caught. Nobody wants to admit it. They're all going to have to come out and admit it now, but of course, they'll come out and deny it with their last breaths because they have to. Another report came out that tens of thousands of elderly were secretly euthanized to boost the COVID death numbers. And that goes in line with the fact that a lot of the COVID death numbers were cooked. And certainly there's a lot of people out there that are claiming, like a lot of people that had all along, that it's a strain of the flu. There probably isn't even a COVID virus. And once again, it shows the whole co-opted medical industry was in on this. These people are dying from the vaccine, not from COVID. Doctors show record requests for supplies of death penalty drugs. So we have the elderly and the disabled and other people that are basically being euthanized like in Nazi Germany, and just to boost up the COVID death numbers. So this is a conspiracy on a grand scale. I hope ultimately this will be a redemption of all of those, including myself, that have been called conspiracy theorists over the years. Another 2024 report came out that 5 million people in the U.S. are now unable to work. Not from COVID, from the vaccine. There's 750,000 excess deaths. The rate of heart issues is 7%. That equates to 13 million people. 10 million extra hospitalizations for people, 30 million vaccine injuries. These numbers are astonishing. They're staggering. I'm sorry, I'm getting pretty heated up about it, but when I roll over this and see what a global tragedy this is. Another report came out about Trust the Science. Wiley Science, a science publisher, they recently came out and admitted that 11,000 of their peer-reviewed papers were deemed fake. A lot of them were generated by AI. I mean, an average layman could read these things and tell it's a bunch of gobbledygook. In fact, when they finally revealed it, that's the word they used. It's gobbledygook. 19 of these journals had to be closed. They were so full of horseshit. And no wonder. As everything with the wars and this pandemic and everything else, it's about a grand agenda, but it's always about money. It's always about fucking money. Everybody realized that. I have a good friend of mine, Mr. Burt Powers, who's been his mantra for years is follow the money. And every single fucking story I ever do leads back to somebody making money, and this is no exception. Um, Academic journals is a $30 billion a year industry. They're going to publish any shit they have to generate more revenue for themselves, and fuck the peasants. And that's all I want to say. Obviously, this whole COVID narrative, from top to bottom, every aspect of it was a lie, and it's unraveling. I don't know what's going to happen. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, if this keeps unraveling and the mainstream media, who betrayed us in the first place, start coming out and turning the tables, and all this stuff gets revealed, it's hard to say what the population will do, but I certainly know what the elites will do.